Okay.
You have given that like
Mm-hmm.
here.
Long before algorithms, before AI or cyber forensics, there was curiosity, the purest form of intelligence.
ये पार्ट कवर कर दो तो
कौन सा वाला?
नीचे वाला पार्ट
Algorithms,
ये
no thinkers.
नहीं मतलब कैमरा से है
For the next century,
ठीक है
थोड़े सा ही दिख रहा है.
it was about trust between systems, between people, between truth and data.
मैं पानी बोतल लेके आता हूँ.
ठीक चलना है क्या हाँ
हाँ तो मैं आता हूँ. फ्रंट सेंटर पर हलवा.
Very good morning. It's great to encounter a career in which scholarship, innovation, and impact converge so profoundly, and today we are privileged to witness it. It is a great privilege and honor to introduce our keynote speaker today. We are honored to welcome Professor S.S. Iyengar, Distinguished University Professor at Florida International University, Miami, and Distinguished Chair Professor at the National Forensic Science University, India. An internationally acclaimed scholar and academic leader, Professor Iyengar, pioneering contribution to high-performance intelligence system, data science and machine learning algorithms, sensor fusion, data mining, and intelligence systems have significantly shaped modern computing. Given the vast scope of Professor Iyengar's contribution, this brief introduction can capture only a glimpse of his distinguished career. With over 600 research publications, 32 books, and decades of mentoring students and researchers worldwide, his career exemplifies the power of curiosity, perseverance, and innovation. We hope today's keynote on AI for application using Python language will spark new ideas, connect theory with impactful practice, and inspire us to push the boundaries of what we can achieve with AI. Please join me in warmly welcoming Professor S.S. Iyengar.
Well, good morning. Still, I think it's not good afternoon. Can you hear me? Audibly?
Yeah, he went.
Okay, thank you. So, Father, so anyway, let's go ahead and start. AI has become a very dominant factor in our lives. I will also tell you some questions when I give this talk, but I'll tell you the response to some of your questions. How do you, what do you think about the biggest fear of AI? What is the relationship between AI and quantum computing? What is the post-human AI impact? And what kind of changes AI will bring to governance and other things. So we'll talk about it a little bit later. What do I go back? emerging computation and information technology also. And I had two of your students who did PhD, who were students here. One Yashas Prasad and Ubi Tejas Ubi. And both of them have good jobs, they have done very well, and they are from the school. Alright, so thanks to all of you and thanks to the funding agency also. So I wrote a book recently on artificial intelligence. So the science of artificial intelligence, what do we like to do? And this book accounts for everything. And also this book gives a lot of coding also. Real-time applications of AI is being discussed here. Then there is a mentoring aspect of it beyond AI. Now with AI being growing exponentially, the most important thing is how do you mentor students, because the AI technology is growing in leaps and bounds. So there are a lot of challenges that we need to sort of look at. And then deep learning networks. That means how, for example, AI facilitates to do deep learning. Okay, that's very, very important because, as we want to really have a system to mimic the human brain. So that means, it's not being just one level of thinking what we are doing. So we wrote a book here. Deep learning networks also is very, very common and famous. And then, of course, the next thing we have done is, we normally talk about AI, but we don't understand the foundational science of AI. So I wrote a book on mathematical theories of machine learning. That is also an excellent book, so that is being used all over the country. So let's start with understanding of what is artificial intelligence. So we want to address all of these questions today. Why Python is a very top languages for AI. Everybody, I hope all of you are learning Python. It's a very important language, and that is the foundational language for all the AI applications. So that also I talk about it. So the whole conference paper now, my keynote talk, understanding why we use Python, what are the exposure to AI in libraries, and learn about scalability and community support. So these are the basic factors that I'll be talking about. So artificial intelligence, it is not magic. People sort of think, oh my God, we don't know. It is a science driven by mathematics, optimization, and brilliant algorithms. So a combination of these three makes the foundation of AI in three important algorithms. You understand? So mathematics you should know good, and you should also know optimization techniques, and then of course how to write algorithms. So there are three basic algorithms that makes the foundation of AI. One is the gradient descent algorithm, that is the engine of learning. Then we also have what is called as the backpropagation algorithm, that is the art of self-correction. That's what we do in our human brain. And then an architecture, which is we call it as transformers, the architecture that changes the entire thing what we are talking. So every artificial intelligence that we are talking is based on these three algorithms. Remember that. So what is gradient descent? So gradient descent algorithm is very similar to something like you have, or you imagine a blind folded hiker. You know what hiking is, hiking mountains. He's trying to reach the bottom of the valley. He's at the top of the mountain. He's trying to come down. So each small down the hill or the step brings them closest to the lowest point, right? You see the figure here. And this is how the gradient descent minimizes what we call as errors in AI models. So AI models have plenty of errors. So gradient descent algorithm basically minimizes, by using this optimization technique, it minimizes the errors in the human output. So what is the key idea behind this? So what it does is, when we have a learnable model, it kind of iteratively sort of tunes the parameters to minimizes the error value. As I said, the whole idea of gradient descent is to minimize the error. So it also enables the neural network to learn from mistakes, okay, by optimizing the weights. So that's what we do in our human brain, right? Suppose I look at something and then I go, oh my God, that is not right, then I try to correct myself. Because I do all these things automatically, using an optimization technique, minimizing, and then how we can use it iteratively. So without that, AI systems, will not improve over time. You understand? Because AI system, once it gives you some answers, it's not very accurate. It may be 60-70%, but when it goes to the gradient descent algorithm, it minimizes the error. Then the next component in the foundational applications of AI is what we call as the art of self-correction. This is what we call as a backpropagation algorithm. What we do is, after we making a prediction, then AI uses a backpropagation to understand how wrong it was, how much of mistake it did. So if you look at it electronically and the neural network, it sends an error signals backward to the neural network. Then there are weights given inside the neural network. It's sort of adjusting the neural network and how much of the prediction error that we are minimizing. Then it continuously creates a feedback loop, predict, compare, and then correct. So that's what we do in our brain, right? Suppose there is an answer that we are expecting the right one. I may give a partial answer which is right. Then I say, oh my God, no, I know how to do it. So I recorrect it. So that's what we do, the backpropagation in our brain. So this is exactly the backpropagation or the art of self-correction. It mimics the human brain. It learns and then refines an understanding through the feedback. So let's say, for example, after the talk, I would like to say, give me some feedback on my talk. So then you say, well, you could have explained that, this. So that feedback I'm going to use it to improve my learning or improve my lecturing. So that's what we do. Okay? So that's the second part of it. The third part of it is what we call as a transformer. So this is the one, that architecture that changes everything. So this transformer is what has revolutionized AI. So this is like about ChatGPT. I'm sure most of you have used ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and much more. So even ChatGPT, when you ask something to do, it only gives an approximate answer. Then you refine it, change it. So it corrects it, finally it corrects it, then gives the answer. So the key idea in this architecture is, instead of reading words one by one, the transformer architecture sees the whole sentence at once. You understand? So then it uses an attention mechanism algorithm to find out what are the relationships. Suppose you ask ChatGPT, you write the background of Dr. Iyengar. So what it does is it collects all the information about me and then starts putting it in the bottom of a paragraph. And it may not be right sometimes. So you have to refine it, correct it, and so on and so forth. So this architecture, what it does is, it enables AI to think contextually. Because there are many more Iyengars you can think about it. So there is a BK Iyengar who is a meditation expert. So what we are really looking at in the form of context, it is able to give a lot of interest. So powering advances in writing, coding, and translation and reasoning. So these are the four components. Contextually, the architecture does writing the code, editing, coding, and then translation and reasoning finally. So these three components essentially what we call as AI revolution. Okay? listen, teaches how to learn. Back propagation tells you how to correct it. Then transformer teaches how to think. So you are learning, then you are correcting, and then you are thinking. So these three, important equations into intelligent systems. That means these are the three important things: learning, correcting, and then transforming how to think. So that's what we do there. So what we are essentially doing is AI is essentially mimicking the human brain. So all of those things forms an AI revolution. So when AI revolution is there, then you have to think what languages would support AI revolution, what I told you. So they talked about it, many languages, but Python seemed to be the best languages. Why Python? Okay. Now this is a high-level language. This can be an interpretation language, and it is also an object-oriented programming, somewhat similar to C++. Okay. So this is developed in 1991 by Guido von Rossum in Europe, and this has become very popular in the AI because of its simplicity and also powerful libraries that are available. A simple example, like print hello. So it's almost like a very simple, English language that we can use with the Python. Okay. So this ease of learning Python. Now, simple syntax. Python has a very simple syntax, something very similar to English language, and it has only fewer lines of code compared to either C++ and Java, and it is a kind of a beginner's friendly language. Example, you can see adding two numbers, you give this numbers 5 times, then you print it. So this is kind of a language which is good for students and researchers to understand also. Remember, Python is just not written only for computer scientists, anybody, because it is a language to be used by mechanical engineers, civil engineers, anybody, and that's why it is as simple as possible. So why Python for AI? That's a question we need to ask. So why Python means there are a lot of community all over the world that are using a rich set of libraries. One for machine language, natural language processing, computer vision. So you don't have to write the program. So this community will allow you to use their kind of code for your application. Now the second advantage is fast prototyping, and experimentation also is good. Then there is a large community, millions of people all over the country are using it, and it is easy supportable language. So if there is a problem I have in my code, then I can easily contact the community and say that, look, I have got a problem, I'm using this application, help me out. So there is a lot of community. And then of course the most interesting thing to me, it integrates easily with other languages, like C++, C or Java. Okay? So these are the fundamental things why Python. Python in real world applications, you can use healthcare, it's an AI-driven diagnostic predictive models. Autonomous vehicles, as I said before, fully autonomous vehicle now is in operation in America, and object-oriented detection, self-driving algorithms can all be used Python language. Then in Wall Street finance, fraud detection and stock market prediction, all of those things uses Python. Of course, the natural language processing, chatbots, voice assistants like Alexa, and you have heard of Alexa, right? Alexa is such a beautiful, assistant to any human being, and so it is almost like a companion. Alexa is now being defined. The latest version of Alexa is very beautiful because it does a lot of nice, important things for anybody, or somebody, for people who are disabled, people who cannot drive, and it is very good because suppose if I had to go to a some meeting, then it says, oh, Dr. Iyengar, it's 9 o'clock, it's already getting late, you should start because the time it takes to drive maybe another an hour. So it gives you all of these kind of direction. Then if if you are interested in eating food, then if you can ask Alexa. So all of those things are AI embedded chatbot like language. So libraries for AI development. You know, there are many, many important libraries. It's all available. NumPy for numerical computations. If you are trying to do numerical computation, this will take it. Then there is another library called Pandas for data manipulation. Then SkillKit, machine learning algorithms. TensorFlow and PyTorch is very good for deep learning. As I said, you know, multiple levels of learning you need, you know, for some problem. Keras is a high-level API, and then of course Hugging Face is another, you know, national program processing one. So NumPy, let me give you some ideas. You know, if you have arrays in your program, if you have math matrices, math functions, you can use all of these things. Pandas is another interesting for creating the data frames, data cleaning, and pre-processing. Some of these things you can just take it and use it, and used as a foundation for AI object. Examples, loading and cleaning the data. NumPy is a beautiful language, and Pandas is equally good. SkillKit Learn is a very interesting, you know, supporting software. It is very good for machine learning. You know, you can do all the classification, regression analysis, clustering techniques. So all of those techniques that you can actually use for some of the numbers or the data you have. So this kind of SkillKit Learn is built on NumPy and also Matplotlib. So there is this data animation facility that is also available with this. So examples of users like spam detection and recommendation engines and all of those things. So advantages is it's a very simple syntax and quick prototyping. That's why it's being used, you know, in Python. TensorFlow, as I said, deep learning. See, there are some examples. You need multiple levels of neural network frame model. So, you know, like this is being developed by Google, Brian team. So deep learning framework is very good for building large models. So large amount of data is there, and you want to sort of roll up a prediction model for, you know, weather, then you should be able to use it. And then offers a GPU acceleration also, because when you are dealing with large numbers, then your GPU might get slow. But this actually TensorFlow method is very fast in processing. So this is kind of used in industry for speech recognition system, image analysis, recommendation system. All of those systems we have developed using these languages. So PyTorch. PyTorch is another important domain of the software that can be used in Python. It's developed by Facebook, and this is preferred. You know, there are dynamic computation graph is the basic foundation it does, because lot of times whenever we are talking about AI, dynamically the data changes. So how do you sort of take into account in terms of the language? So this kind of software will help. Then this is also good for developing computer vision and natural language processing. You know, once upon a time, I used to work in computer vision 20 years back, you know, in a model-based framework or any other computer, you know, data segment algorithms or developing wavelet-based image. We used to write a lot of heavy code, spend lots of time, and then, you know, still, maybe we may not be able to get the answer we want. But with this PyTorch, we are able to do lots of these things, and it is available freely, one can use it. So used by OpenAI, Hugging Face. So there is this enormous amount of libraries that are available. Keras is another important library tool, high level for TensorFlow, simple syntax to build, you know, models. Example, you will see that, and this is very good for ideal for beginner. I am sure in your languages when you are in your class, some of these things are being taught, I suppose. And Hugging Face is another important OpenAI system, and this is very popular in natural language processing, text generation, translation, summarization. That's what, you know, when you do the chat GPT and give a few sentences and say give a summary, that's what it uses, many of these libraries. So in Transformers library, GPT, and is also being very much used for autonomous vehicle. So this kind of pre-trained models have development time, and that is also we can see. And when we also want visualization libraries, because see, one of the things with Python is it's a very beautiful language to do a lot of data animation. So, like plotting graphs, and then, then you can do some statistical visualization also, and then you have a kind of interactive boards to draw the plots. So this is a very beautiful tool, for explainability and decision making. So you must sort of use in your class. If suppose an instructor is teaching, your class, you should expect he or she to teach some of these software which are available. So case study with natural language processing with Python. So how you do it? You build a chatbot using Hugging Face. Okay, both are available. And then it does also do some sentiment analysis for customer review. Because when customer reviews comes on your natural language processing model, then it expresses sentiments also. So the language translation using transformer model are very good, and it is very important. So I am sure if you are taking a course, you must learn these things, at different levels. Okay? So in case of computer vision, OpenCV is available, TensorFlow methods, and applications of face recognition is one of them, autonomous vehicles, and medical imaging. So there are a lot of medical imaging people are using basically to see whether there is a cancer in a person or when they do a biopsy. All of those things they use in the context of a computer vision, the TensorFlow. So in the Tesla car, I don't know how many of you have heard about it. In Tesla car, I have seen it's a completely autonomous vehicle, beautiful, and it's a self-driving car. A lot of these things are used for healthcare imaging also. So scalability. So that's another important thing. Can you able to scale, your language for small data and then scale it to large amount of data? Yes. So it can work for small prototypes to massive enterprise solutions. So that is the beauty of it. So that's important. And distributed computing is another important thing. And cloud integration is also can be done very efficiently with this. And so Python scales in a horizontal, easily, the horizontal way, so that can be used integrated. Python in production, AI model development frameworks is already available. Integration into Docker and Kubernetes, some of the software. So as a service deployment model, so example deploying an AI model for us. So what is that I'm trying to stress here is, Python is a language, it's abundant software that is already available. You don't need to be wasting your time in coding. All that you have to is take that and sort of fine tune it to your own application. So community support. That's another important thing is, every colleges, every schools in America are using Python. And I heard also in India and all the other places, Python is a language that is being used by several, maybe 70 to 80 million people around the world. So this is the largest open source community. Millions of developers contribute to Python. And active forums are there, tutorials are there, GitHub reports. So there is plenty of information. So there is this constant innovation, AI tools is taking place using Python. You understand? Because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there is a very nice idea that has already been implemented, then you can take it and modify it and use it for your task. Open source ecosystem, free access to libraries, collaborative model is very good in Python, and that helps to do the faster innovation. Example, TensorFlow is an open source model and is widely supported. So you understand, you have a language, you know how to use it, you know how to structure it. There are a lot of supporting, libraries are available, so you can use it. Learning resources in Python. Okay, online courses are available, and then Coursera is also used, and data camp, books. There are many Python, even in our own book we give a lot of examples. There are crash courses, learning with so many software toolkit, practice platform that also is available. So university workstations and hackathons are all being used on this. Advantages of Python in AI. It beginners user-friendly language, okay? It supports, as I said, both prototyping and production of the language. Large number of AI-focused libraries are available, and it is a multi-domain adoption. That means you can use it for healthcare, finance, robotics, whatever that you are thinking. What are the limitations of Python? So the limitations I would say is, it's kind of little slower than C++ in terms of compiling and executing, and also kind of Java, and high memory consumption. So the only other negative thing with Python is it's a large amount of memory. So it is kind of weak for mobile app development. Limited real-time computing. You know, many of the applications in AI, we always want real-time computing. So that's where you want to think of using quantum computing. That's a different area. So, but how do you overcome these limitations? So what you can do is you compile, using Python or Numba. Then you take the compilation of Python code for faster execution on the Python. So you do certain amount of pre-processing, and then is integration using a Python for ML, but C++ or Java for perform. So you can swap the languages also. Okay? So that's where you can overcome some of these limitations. Cloud solutions works horizontally and scales with clusters. So future of AI with Python, this is the language of the future. If you don't learn Python, you are not going to get a job. So Python is learning an English language. So that's why every university, everything, people are learning to teach Python. Okay? So there are things like growth in edge computing with Python is good AI, and explanation for healthcare, which is also very good. Then, as I said, quantum computing, that's the third application, and then continued dominance of AI, in many of the research is very critical. So the bottom line is, okay, for example, demo idea is predicting house prices using skit-learn. So how do you do it? Load the data set, you do the pre-processing, train the ML models, predict, and then visualize. So beautiful. And there is a code for everything. You may have to do some sort of, small fine-tuning with this language. And here is a simple example for finding a house price using this. Hands-on tool for workshop. Google Colab is there. Jupyter Notebook, and Anaconda for package management. So these are very standard hands-on tools that are available. Python in academia and industry. Academia, PyTorch is being used. I'm sure your teacher will be teaching Hugging Face because they are very flexible, experimental also. In industry, TensorFlow is very common. Skit-learn is very common because they are stable and production ready, and both ecosystems will share knowledge. So you understand? So these are the real important features. So what are the key takeaways? Python is the #1 language in AI. Easy to learn, powerful libraries, scalable, supported by strong community. Essential for students, researchers, and for industry professionals. So here is an example of an architecture we developed for digital forensics, for cyber security or hacking. So I think this you can give it as a student homework for in your class, and tell them to develop appropriate coding using Python for a digital forensic cyber security model. Then there is also an enabled forensic investigation network. We have just written a book. It's a compilation of all the papers using Python, which is also being published in Springer Nature. Okay, so this is basically a beautiful way to say that why we have to use, these Python languages. Okay. Now, there are questions I have been asked after this kind of talk. The following, and I'm going to read that, and then I want to see. So, what kind of changes will AI bring to governments? Governance means community, government, etc. Okay? So AI has already transformed governance by making more efficient, transparent, and data-driven in government. Okay? Because everywhere, at least in the United States, they are using it. AI can automate administrative tasks, such as processing application, if people have applied, managing public records, and delivering welfare services, so on and so forth in the government. So you develop what are called as for community smart city government using AI. Better policing and analysis of large data sets, accountability, and also surveillance, all of those things, and also it gives a very transparent solution to government, using AI. That's the answer. So then the next question somebody asked me is, how would AI help keep culture alive amidst many languages in a country? Like in India, we have so many languages, right? So AI may play a very major role in preserving and promoting cultural and actually linguistic diversity, because there is this Python language can help, for many of these techniques in terms of language models, and it can translate between multiple languages in real time. That's a beautiful thing, making communications inclusive for all the community. Okay? What is the biggest fear of AI? Okay, everybody says, what will happen? So the biggest fear of AI and human machine learning is the loss of human control. That can happen, and also misuse of power. That can also happen because, so this includes, like for example, such as a mass surveillance one can do, job displacement also can happen, and if you are not smart in many of these AI, then you are not going to get jobs. Autonomous weapons also can be prepared. And so the fear people have is development of super intelligent AI system that could in some way can misalign with our human values. Okay? That's the whole idea. Because you are trying to develop a super intelligent system that is going to certainly misalign with some of the value systems that we have in that. So that's the biggest one. But these risks, what I said, can highlight the need for responsible AI development. That's why I said responsible AI development, making it strong regulation and policies on AI development. So that is the thing that we are right now in the United States and perhaps all over the country, all over the world. So what is the relationship between AI and quantum computing? As I already said, quantum computing handles large amount of real data. So when you are trying to handle large of data, especially with AI, you will have machine learning algorithms which are much more faster than what you can do, with the traditional computer. Like many applications of cryptography, drug discovery, and climate modeling, which a large amount of data where you are trying to use AI, it can certainly help. So the last question is, what is the post-human AI impact? Then that is also a very wonderful question. Is what happens is, it is referring to AI which has a deeply integrated with, or it has surpassed human abilities. That's where the problem comes. When once it surpasses the human ability, its value could include enhanced human intelligence. Okay? But longer lifespan. Like with all of the good discovery and things like that, people instead of living maybe 75, now they can live up to 95. Okay? So through what we call as AI-assisted medicines. So the medicine which is assisted by artificial intelligence will keep you longer. It can tell you what to eat, what not to eat, and so on. So it can be a very creative way to live longer. That is one positive thing. But it also raises some philosophical and ethical directions, because living longer is good, but if you cannot sort of live independently, then that becomes a burden to the community, right? So it has both the advantages but disadvantages also with this postmark. Okay. All right. I think with this I'm going to stop here. So I'm going to leave all these slides with Dr. Sunita here. And if anybody wants to use it or use it in your class or something, please feel free to use it. And there are some, software that is available. You should teach your children, kids here. Kids means student, and you have to make them expert in a language which is good for AI development. Okay, thank you. If there are any questions, I think I can answer, but you can, a few minutes are there. You can certainly ask any questions if you want. I think I've answered most of it because it has included everything. I mean, these are some of the questions people do ask at the end of my talk. I think, if there is something new you have, you can certainly ask it.
I have one question.
Yes.
Is there any chance of terrorists misusing it?
Oh yeah, misusing AI is very common because, you can have AI software to do a surveillance or data collection on people who are innocent or people, who are kind of, preaching a religion. So it can be very much against a religion. That's why one of the major problems with AI is, can it avoid bias? No, because AI only looks at the data. It does not know. So by bringing some wrong conclusions on a set of data can also lead to a lot of confusion in the society. So that's one of the fundamental problems right now with AI we are facing. So the question is, you need to regulate that. You need to come up with some good policies to see that we don't misuse AI, because if you misuse AI, then people will be helplessness. I mean, misuse even doctors, because he can prescribe something which are not good. So that's why we have to be very careful and clear in terms of the policies. But people in America, they don't want to be controlled, especially many of these major companies. They want freedom to do what they want. But the Congress is trying to do, and I don't want to say control AI, regulate AI to some extent, where you can give some policies, do this, don't do this. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
On behalf of the organizing committee, I sincerely thank Professor Iyengar for an insightful and inspiring keynote address. The depth of the ideas and clarity of vision shared today have greatly enriched our students, young minds. We are truly grateful for your time and valuable contributions. Thank you. Now we'll break for lunch, and session 1 and session 2 papers will be presented, will be held over here only. So I request all the participants to move towards Birla Auditorium for the lunch, and we'll meet at sharp 2 o'clock for the paper presentations. Thank you, everyone. the presenters who were supposed to present in session 1 to stay back. Paper presenters of session 1 to stay back.
क्या करना है? सीधे